Welcome to Midnight Horrors. Dive into chilling tales and dark mysteries. Subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. 3 True Terrifying Carnival Horror Tales. Story 1. The House of Secrets. Starting a new job always brings a mix of excitement and nerves. When I landed a summer gig at a local carnival in downtown LA, I was mostly looking for some extra cash before my senior year of college began in the fall. The carnival was a typical setup with rides, games, and food stands, but its main attraction was the fun house, which doubled as a haunted house after dark. It was a solid structure, rumored to have been some old guy's mansion back in the day. I was assigned to manage the fun house, a favorite among carnival goers. My job seemed simple enough. Guide the guests, ensure they had a fun and safe time, and watch them leave. At first, everything went smoothly, but then I started noticing odd things. It began with small discrepancies. I'd count a dozen people entering, but only 11 would come out. Initially, I chalked it up to miscounting after all. Keeping track amidst the chaos of laughter and screams was no easy task. However, as days passed, the numbers just didn't add up. 7 went in, 6 came out. 10 went in, 9 came out. Was I going crazy? Something was off, and I couldn't ignore it much longer. One particularly busy afternoon, a blonde girl caught my eye as she walked up to the fun house. She was drop-dead gorgeous and seemed out of place amidst the childlike atmosphere. She couldn't have been more than a few years older than me. I had to do a double take. I'm not a weird guy by any means, but I couldn't help but lock eyes with her for a few seconds. She smiled, handed me her ticket, and I directed her into the attraction. After she disappeared into the darkness, I returned to my duties. Time ticked by as I watched attentively as people entered and exited, sometimes asking me questions. Admittedly, I was paying a little more attention to the guests that night, hoping to see that girl again and maybe work up the courage to talk to her. Pretty soon, I noticed that groups who entered after her were beginning to emerge. A few more minutes passed, and I started getting worried. She should have been out by now. Compelled by genuine concern, I decided to abandon my post for a few minutes and go looking for her. I stepped inside and locked the entrance door, navigating the dimly lit rooms and narrow corridors. As I moved through the house, I came across something I had noticed during my initial walkthrough, a barely noticeable seam in the wall. I wasn't sure what to expect, but curiosity got the best of me. I pressed against the seam and heard a distinct click. I fiddled with it some more, and my jaw nearly hit the floor when I realized it was a hidden door. It swung open slowly, revealing a pitch-black hallway. I stood there in shock. What in the world was this doing here? I was definitely going to have a long conversation with my boss about this. I walked into the hallway with my phone's flashlight guiding the way. I didn't have much brain power to spend being nervous because I was still so shocked about the whole situation. At the end of the passage, I found another door. I flung it open, and, to my surprise, it was a concealed exit leading back to the carnival grounds. I breathed a sigh of relief as this discovery proved I wasn't going crazy. All those people I'd noticed leaving the attraction had probably stumbled across that secret door by accident and assumed it was the correct way to go. As I walked back the way I came, I felt a little bummed that I wasn't going to get the chance to talk to that girl. I'm not sure what came over me, but I decided to keep exploring the funhouse instead of returning to my post. I think a part of me just wanted a few extra minutes of this impromptu break I was taking. I walked through a couple more rooms, and that's when I noticed it on one of the walls was another faint seam, identical to the first one I had seen. I played with it until it clicked and swung open. I could immediately tell this one was different. The putrid smell was the first thing I noticed. More concerning, though, was the fact that there was no quarter in this one, but a ladder that led downwards. I was more confused than anything. This door was on the ground floor, and I was told specifically that this place didn't have a basement. I debated climbing down, but I felt awful about the prospect that the girl might be down there. So, against my instincts, I began the descent. The smell only got worse as I climbed down into the darkness. I was expecting to find a basement, but what I found instead was far, far worse. At the bottom, I pulled out my phone's flashlight and froze in shock. I was literally standing in a tunnel that extended into the darkness. There was no way this was part of the house above. The rational part of my brain screamed at me to turn back and forget about it, but the mystery was too compelling. I ventured further, being careful not to make any noise. The walls were damp, and the tunnel was completely silent. As I explored, my flashlight beam fell on something unexpected, a white, glittery purse sitting in the middle of the corridor. I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. It looked familiar, and then it hit me. It was that girl's purse, I was sure of it. Panic set in. Was she really down here? I doubted any rational person could find this tunnel and not turn around, but the proof was literally in my hands. My mind raced. Was she hurt? Lost? And then a more terrifying thought hit me. Was she alone? I didn't feel safe anymore, but I was in too deep. Violating every survival instinct I had, I yelled into the tunnel for that girl. I waited. Nothing. I was just about to shout again, and I heard the sound of rapid footsteps echoing through the tunnels. My first instinct was to run. I had every reason to believe whoever was running toward me was hostile. I turned around and bolted back to the ladder. I got halfway up and slipped, falling back to the bottom. The footsteps were basically right on top of me now. I knew I was done for. I braced myself for a fight, and then a voice rang out, a girl's voice, her voice. She gasped, "Help me," clutching her side as if in pain. I yelled at her to climb up, but she insisted that I follow her back into the darkness for some reason. I told her there was no chance I was doing that and basically forced her up the ladder. We got to the top, and I slammed the door shut. I asked her how she ended up down there, and she couldn't really give me a straight answer. She kept saying she didn't remember how it happened, just that she suddenly realized she was underground. She said she started hearing things moving in the dark, and that there were voices calling to her. I didn't know how to process this. I asked if someone had guided her down there, and she said she didn't remember. Then MCC Hunt's weirdest thing about her story was that she looked at me with this blank stare that genuinely freaked me out. I interrogated her about why she told me to stay down there, but she didn't answer. I'd had enough. I wanted to get as far away from this person as possible. I called the police, but she opted to leave the fun house before they arrived. I never saw her again. The police investigated, and what they found was insane. Apparently, the house had been some sort of safe house during Prohibition in the 1920s. As such, it had a bunch of secret passageways that led to a section of the underground Prohibition tunnels that hadn't been discovered. The owner claimed he had no idea about the house's history, but I was skeptical. I quit my job and got as far away from there as possible. I still have so many questions. Did the owner know about this? Was that girl almost kidnapped? Had someone knocked her out and taken her down there? Or was she part of the whole thing? There are numerous explanations for what happened to me, but all of them are equally terrifying. Thank you for watching our chilling carnival tales. If you enjoyed the stories, please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more spine-tingling content. This is just part 1, so stay tuned for part 2 coming soon.